Good afternoon. Welcome to video 3 of 15 of the Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco. This is Della Simon. We're going to get right into it today. Sitting out here outside this beautiful park, beautiful day. In the shade, it feels good. So chapter 7 is titled, Misuse Money and Money Will Misuse You. He starts the quote for this chapter with, money can't buy happiness, but it can make you awfully comfortable while you're being miserable. And consider that is when you have a lot of money, if you're buying a lot of luxuries, a lot of cars, fancy jewelry, or things that require payments or installments, then really you're building a bunch of liabilities on your financial statement, and it can make you miserable even though you have a lot of money. So people who declare that money doesn't buy happiness have already concluded that they will never have money. And it's really interesting, DeMarco puts it this way, is if money doesn't buy happiness, why save it? Why invest it? Why study it if it doesn't buy happiness? And here's another really interesting way he puts it is, if money doesn't buy happiness, does poverty, does being poor buy happiness? It's really interesting. I thought it was interesting. But servitude is the antithesis of freedom. The irony is that when most people earn more money, they actually don't free up more of their time. They are indeed creating lifestyle servitude. So they make more money, they spend more money, just to get to the lifestyle that they want with that type of income, and then they create a whole bunch of liabilities that force them to remain in the workplace because they have to pay their bills and pay for the car because they leased it, or whatever your particular situation happens to be. But he says that money doesn't buy happiness because money is used for consumer pursuits that are destructive to freedom. Let's see if I can just give you some more examples. So the car is obviously one. If you're renting your place instead of trying to own it, if you have all the subscriptions like Prime, SoundCloud, you may have SoundCloud, Spotify, all these subscriptions that are taking from your bank account every month, and you're not saving a little bit of your income or more of your income. These are consumer pursuits that are destructive to your freedom. So what DeMarco says is that consumerism is actually the leading obstacle to happiness. When you splurge your money buying designer clothes or designer handbags, designer bags or designer whatever, you know what I'm saying, that you spend your money, that actually sets you back from creating your true wealth. The well-salaried workaholic who is never home to strengthen the relationship with his kids or wife is less happier than the poor farmer in Thailand who spends half his day tending to his fields and the other half with his family. That's a really interesting way to put it. Because, all right, let's be practical with this, DeMarco. The farmer in Thailand who is farming for 2 or 3 hours a day, getting his fields right, and then spending the rest of his time with his family and making it, he's much happier than, and I'm very happy, by the way, for me, and I'm working a 5 on, 2 off, 8 hours every shift. That's 40 hours a week at least. And I'm not spending a lot of time with my family, but that'd be really interesting to consider. Like, I'd love to meet a farmer in Thailand and we can talk about happiness, and he can just tell me how it feels to not care about stocks or having to pay. Well, actually, I like stocks, but hopefully I've gotten I've gotten that point across. Okay, yeah, but I'd really love to meet and just to compare happiness, because that'd be, not compare it, but just talk about it. So DeMarco, he says, why am I wealthy versus the guy or woman stuck in morning traffic in the morning? I have freedom. I wake up and do what I want. I pursue dreams. I write this book without worrying about how many will sell. I hop a plane to Las Vegas for 2 weeks without worrying about jobs, bosses, or unpaid bills. What he's saying, very simply, is, and I have an evening shift, so I don't have to fight morning traffic, but I used to have a morning job, and I know what that feels like, and I live in Houston. I don't know where you live, but if you live somewhere where it's traffic, it's just like what makes him different is that he, regardless of what he does, he still has income coming in. He no longer has to be in traffic unless he wants to be. He can do what he wants to. That's a really lovely life right there. He pursues dreams. That's why I like this book so much, because he's very credible, and I feel like when you study the book, when you study the knowledge and read over and over again, and you model the behavior of DeMarco, and it's just not like it would be hard to do, it's just doing it over and over and over again, consciously, then you start to ingrain this knowledge and you start to become it, and then your life changes. And that's really what I'm shooting for here in studying this book. So we can continue a little bit more with chapter 7. Let's see. It says, we have become a nation of undisciplined spenders and consumers. Welcome to America. It's not just the government that's overspending, it's all of the consumers as well. So DeMarco makes it really interesting. He says, in this book, we are trying to adjust your mindset so you shift from being a consumer to being a producer, and seeing how producers think, and then watching other consumers around you, because more than likely your friends and family members are going to be, there's a spider on me, but your friends and family members are going to be consumers as well, so you can identify how they think versus how you are now training yourself to think. But it says, if you're held hostage to your lifestyle, you aren't wealthy because you lack freedom. When you have all these super nice things that cost money, or you have a whole bunch of subscriptions or recurring payments that are draining your bank account every month, and you have bills that you have to pay for, cell phone, data, new stuff, then you aren't wealthy, because you have to keep clocking in. You have to, you're a modern day slave. That's what he says. It's really a way to do it. So he says that the consequence of instant gratification is the destruction of freedom, health, and choice. So the more you get things on the go, when you're spending all the money that you get, as soon as you get it, just blowing the paycheck, it doesn't matter, making it rain, buying bottles, then you are ineffectively destroying your wealth because you're pursuing instant gratification. So let's go to the next chapter. Chapter 8 is titled Lucky Bastards Play the Game. So I'm going to have to speed read this because I'm going a little bit slower than usual. So let's do this. I once overheard someone call me a lucky bastard. What a sad, delusional, sidewalking belief. I'm not lucky. I'm a player of the game. While the lucky bastard hater uttered this under his breath and sat his ass in the dugout, I was at the plate taking swings. That's what DeMarco says. He says that, I don't know if he was at a bar, maybe like a sports club or something, but someone called him a lucky bastard, and DeMarco's like, hey man, while you were sitting your ass down, not working on your business, not learning, not getting better, I was up there, meeting people, networking, saving my money, investing in my business, getting more ideas every day on the hustle. And now that I've made it, you're going to call me a lucky bastard, man. Look at you, bro. I love it. DeMarco, you got to get this book. It's awesome. So he gives a small example for the story of two brothers working the same job. So while Joe is killing ogres and wizards in the latest Dungeon of Doom, Bill is out of the box of nothingness and exposing himself and his inventions to the world. So who's going to get lucky? He says they have two brothers, Bill and Joe. Joe is the one who's killing ogres. Joe is the one playing all the new video games, getting the VR, having all the nice house parties. And Bill is the one creating a business, networking, meeting people, shooting his idea out there, getting feedback. Who's the one who's more likely to get lucky? I know you know the answer to that. It's not very hard. It's definitely going to be Bill, because Bill is the one who is trying to make things happen. He's the one who's trying to force luck to happen. You can't get lucky if you're just sitting your ass on the bench. So get your ass off the bench, do something, build your product, build your line, build your brand, do what you do, and get out there and make things happen. So it says, a sidewalker's mindset is anchored in 3 beliefs that keep them trapped and vulnerable to money-making scams. And belief 1 is luck is needed for wealth. I still have a lot of friends on the sidewalk. They're not friends, but they're acquaintances. Definitely some coworkers as well, who are on the sidewalk, and there's nothing wrong with being on the sidewalk, but they say that luck is needed for wealth. They believe in luck. They say wealth is an event. That's belief number one, is luck is needed for wealth. Belief number two is wealth is an event. And belief number three is others can give wealth to me. And remember, there's no surrogate for wealth. You got to figure it out. You got to develop the skills. You got to fail. You got to save and figure out what investments are bad and which ones are good, and eventually build your line, because that's just how wealth is built. And also that process creates events that others see as luck. DeMarco gives the example of Mark Cuban, who he owns the Dallas Mavericks. He says that goes to comment on how Mark Cuban says nobody mentioned luck when he was spending late nights looking at Cisco routing information and hardware and software programming code. No one called Mark Cuban lucky at that time when he was putting in the hours. But once he expanded, once he developed his product and his brand and his line and became a multi-millionaire, then people started saying, oh, he's lucky. Look how he's made it right here. Yeah, if I only had, X, Y, Z, then I would be where Mark Cuban is right now, which is really unfortunate, because sidewalkers disregard process and only focus on the events, while Mark Cuban was focusing on the process. And then when he made the event, everyone accused him of just being a lucky bastard. Consider that, please, because DeMarco makes a big point of it, and I really enjoy that. You don't see the people working really hard, but you do see the big blow up. And finally, for chapter 8, DeMarco says, to take advantage of the fast lane, understand that luck is a product of process, action, work, and being out there. And when you are out there, you stand a chance at being in the right place at the right time. Luck is indeed something that can benefit you, but luck only strikes when you've been developing and getting better and are now able to network and meet people and kind of rub matches, if you will, to get a spark. And that's when you can blow up. That's when luck hits you. Luck is not just a one-time deal that just stumbles upon you. And if it is, be aware, because if you don't know how to manage your money, there's a good chance you could lose it. All right, let's go to chapter 9. Chapter 9 is wealth demands accountability. So he says that hitchhikers assign control over their financial plans to others, effectively introducing probabilities to victimhood. When you are a hitchhiker, and let's say you want to hitchhike across the country, there's a decent chance you'd never even make it to your destination. You could be robbed or harassed. Remember that hitchhiking is dangerous and inefficient, as DeMarco says, yet the Sidewalkers' manifesto is predicated on hitchhiking. It's predicated on relying on others to pick the right investments for you, relying on others to show you how to save and put your money to work, or relying on others to have the skills that you need yourself to build wealth. So you can't rely on others. It's all you. This is all you. You got to do it by yourself. Well, you're not by yourself. You can build with others, but you still have to learn. You still have to be responsible for your own self. It says that people who don't take responsibility are in fact victims, and they have a mindset that it's they instead of I. So they are responsible for me failing. The professor is responsible for me failing. My boss is responsible for my low paycheck, instead of I'm responsible for not getting a job that's worthy of my time and my income. Or my professor is, well, I'm not writing as hard as I could, so my professor's obviously giving me a lower grade. So that's something to consider. Don't make yourself a victim, because victims can't be wealthy, because victims don't take responsibility. When you take responsibility and you also become accountable to that responsibility, then you have the chance to modify and improve behavior. And behavior can improve your actions. Your actions can give you the results that you truly desire. He says that when a financial advisor promises you 14% guaranteed income from a CD, and you later discover that that financial advisor scammed you, then it is indeed your fault, because you didn't do your due diligence, or you were negligent in understanding how the investment worked, and you were supposed to give full responsibility to yourself. If indeed you are saying that it is not my responsibility, this guy scammed me, I hate this company, I hate this. Once I had to give back, I think like $100, $200, it was almost $200 for Chase Bank because of their overdrafting policy. I was really mad at Chase, and I said Chase scammed me, and they're this big company, why do they need my money? And I was really frustrated, but I just got rid of Chase Bank. I don't use Chase anymore. I use Capital One. And now, when I look back, it was really my fault because I didn't understand. I didn't read the fine line for that account. And I deserve to be overdrafted because I overdrafted. I deserve to pay that fee back. But I look back at it now, and it's a lesson learned that I do read the fine text when I sign up for accounts. Most of the time. All the time. All right, let's continue chapter 9. We're almost done here. I see we're approaching our time limit. So here's a really interesting way to look at it. It says, when the markets crashed, DeMarco didn't lose a lot of money because the markets aren't his primary wealth acceleration vehicle. See, when I was on the slow lane about 1 or 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when I was reading The Richest Man in Babylon, stocks and bonds and money market accounts were my primary wealth acceleration tool for right now. That's what I was doing that. So I was on a 10, 15 year track to be wealthy. And that's not the way to do it, because when you have your own products, when you have your own line, or when you're an affiliate and you just do it really well, when you make your own videos or just create your own idea, you travel, whatever you like to do, then you are now responsible for your own content. You can create it when you want to, you can reach whoever you want to, and then you can effectively take control over your assets. And when the market crashes, yes, you'll be affected by it, but then you'll realize that the markets were just your way to conserve the wealth you had already made from all your products. Your products aren't necessarily affected by the markets, which is a brilliant way of looking at it. You create your own business, and yes, you are affected when the stock markets crash, but at the same time, you're not hurt because that's not the way you want to build your wealth. It's just the way you conserve the wealth you've already built. Or maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's cash instead. Don't take me on that. I'm not a financial advisor, by the way. So let's finish up with chapter 9. I do appreciate you sticking it up so far here, because it's probably pretty lengthy in comparison to my other videos. There was a lot of content in these 3 chapters. I didn't even hit way as much as I wanted to, but let's finish with like a capstone idea. It says that responsibility owns choices. Taking responsibility is the first step to taking the driver's seat, but accountability is the final. Accountability, ladies and gentlemen. If there's one nugget we can get from this whole 3 chapters for this study, this 3rd video in the 15 video series, is accountability. Responsibility is important. It's the first step, saying I am responsible for that failing grade. I am responsible for getting written up on my job. I am responsible for getting laid off at my job. I am responsible for not studying as hard as I want to. That's the first step. But then being accountable, tracking yourself with like a spreadsheet or like a productivity app, but tracking yourself, having a spreadsheet, knowing I've applied for 10 jobs in the last 3 or 4 days, or 4 days, like knowing exactly I've been spending 10 hours on studying every day, or not 10 hours, but 3 hours, whatever it is. I've been working out for 1 hour every day, and you have it on your calendar, and you have your spreadsheet, and you know where you are. That's very important, because wealth is a daily process, and understanding where you started and how you're adding on to that process every day is crucial to not getting discouraged, and also seeing where you are lacking and where you're spending your time is very crucial. So I do encourage it. I have a spreadsheet for my blog, like a value spreadsheet when I do things, when I add things. I have a calendar. I have apps like financial apps. If you have any kind of like, maybe I don't want to recommend anything, but I like to use Mint. And then there's also like a wallet app where I track what I spend. It's very important. So get accountable today. I really appreciate you watching. I'll be back in video 4 where we'll do chapters 10 through 12. Okay. So yeah. Peace. Thanks for keeping it real with me. It's been a pleasure.